Hey everyone, I just got home and it looks like there is a new article about the upcoming Legions Imperialis supplement that's just been published on Warhammer Community. So I thought we'd take a look through it together and I'll give you my thoughts and see if there's anything interesting. So we're talking with James here, who is introducing us to the book. And he says that The Ruin of the Salamanders is the first of the new journal Strategia supplements, following the release of the Liber Strategia for Legions Imperialis. So already, we're being told that these are going to be the standard for forthcoming Legions Imperialis releases and that there are going to be more. And so again, we can be, I think, fairly confident that the Liber Strategia was not the end for the game and just really more of a refresh and a reset towards a new direction. Hopefully, that new direction is something that we can all enjoy and appreciate, and that is going to grow and build the game. And it seems like it is based on what this article contains, because it is going to contain more targeted stories and rules content more often, which allows us, this is James speaking, to delve even deeper into the most cataclysmic conflict in the history of the Imperium. Right, so these are all good things to hear. This book takes us back to the Ignis sector of the Istvan V assault with a focus on the Salamanders Legion and their close allies. So it looks like we're going to probably see Raven Guard and Iron Hands as well in this book, which is only natural, I think. And maybe gives some suggestion that there might be more to come from Istvan, from Games Workshop, but we'll just have to wait and see. They're close allies. I would imagine that means the Raven Guard and the Iron Hands, but it might just mean their Solar Auxilia cohorts, but and perhaps Titan Legios as well. It looks like we're going to be fighting against the Word Bearers and Iron Warriors in a tale that expands the narrative presented in part 1 of the Drop Site Massacre. Now, that I'm not sure what that is supposed to mean. I don't think there has been any kind of narrative presented in part 1 of the Drop Site Massacre, unless they're referring to the book that was published for the big version of the Horus Heresy. And if that's the case, that's quite interesting. I might actually pick up the Horus Heresy volume myself just to see what is contained in there. Next, James says that the ruin of the Salamanders contains exacting details of the forces committed to this battle by both sides, as well as a blow-by-blow account of the devastation that followed, new maps of the battles that unfolded, and art depicting the forces that engaged in this most bitter struggle. Has James been watching my videos? That is the important question. I wonder. Obviously, I'm sure James has no idea who I am, but it is interesting that both of these points were something that I mentioned in one of my previous videos about this topic. So I'm really glad to hear James say that there's going to be maps and art depicting the forces in the book. So I'm very happy to hear that. Those are a big part of what I enjoy about the setting. As you guys know, I've talked about that ad infinitum at this point, or excuse me, ad nauseum. So I won't belabor the point, but I'm glad to hear that there's going to be more of that coming. We also are going to get rules for the Saturnine command squads. All of the new stuff is obviously going to have rules in this new book. I'm not going to read everything verbatim here, but there is a slight clue here, right? Even the most humble of Saturnine Terminator detachments is twice as tough. So we can guess that that means they have 2 wounds. Let's see. We got a great picture here of the Salamanders. I really like this direction that they're going here because it's emphasizing the scope and scale of Legions Imperialis, which, as we all know, is its major strength. So seeing all of these forces arrayed against each other, we got some Ogrons here, some Salamander allied Solar Auxilia, really a nice, and even some knights in the background facing off against, looks like Iron Warriors. Really great job from the Warhammer Community team setting up this photo. I think it does put the Saturnine miniatures in focus, but it also gives plenty of attention and relevance to the rest of the range. What else can we glean from this? James says that we knew that some players would be inspired by the new Saturnine releases, so we're getting into the new formations now. So basically, he's just saying that if you want to just play with Saturnine, they're going to give you the options to do so, and that's going to be contained in this new book. It also looks like you're going to be able to deep strike all of your Terminators and your Dreadnoughts. Now, I am curious. I would imagine only your Saturnine Dreadnoughts can deep strike, although it doesn't really specify here. But that sounds like a very scary formation, and I would imagine a lot of people are going to want to take that. So everybody else is going to have to figure out quickly how to deal with very high toughness, very high damage units dropping right into the middle of the table or into the rear area to seize objectives. We're also getting a formation, it looks like, that is entirely focused on super heavy vehicles, which, as you can imagine, is only natural given the focus of the release on the Fellblade and its variant chassis. We also have another formation that looks to be entirely focused on the Arachne and Tarantula automatic guns. James goes on to say and talk about the iconic formations, right? It looks like we're getting specific groups of detachments for Salamanders, Iron Warriors, and the Solar Auxilia. So these include things focused on the Saturnine Terminators for the Salamanders, specifically loaded into Mastodon transports. And the Iron Warriors are getting some kind of iconic formation for the heavy and super heavy vehicles that we're getting in this release. Looks like they will shatter enemy morale as well as armor with their massive guns. So that's interesting. Morale is such a one. It's all or nothing, it seems like, in Legions Imperialis. So any kind of bonus that you can get for morale or penalty against the enemy's morale seems like a very powerful ability. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Lastly, we get some kind of Solar Auxilia iconic formation called the Foe Hammer formation, crushing foes at point blank range with Leman Russ and Malkador tanks. Nice to see the Malkador getting some attention and affection from Games Workshop. It's always seemed to be a bit of a forgotten child. So it's great to see it get a little bit of a boost in the Liber Strategia with that +1 to its armor save, and now getting a bit more attention in this iconic formation. Looks like we're also getting some kind of bonus to any vehicles assigned to that formation if they're on a charge order. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I know I've talked before that I just don't really like the idea of vehicles charging at this scale. I guess if it's tanks, it's really not a huge deal because I suppose this is a weapon of last resort, right? You're probably trying to clear out infantry or some such. But so I guess this isn't a huge deal. It's not encouraging people to take swarms of rhinos and charge them up the field. So we'll see. The last element is a new historical mission. So that's interesting. It says that it will recreate the Iron Warriors' slaughter of the Salamanders in the Urgal Depression that came to be known as the Crucible. This is a brutal slugging match on a battlefield mostly void of terrain and cover, where the attackers start sandwiched between two defender deployment zones, and both sides must simply obliterate as much of their opponent's army as possible. Perfect for the heavily armored formations found in this book. So that's I'm glad to see we're getting more missions. We're getting all of the good stuff. It looks like we're getting new missions. It looks like we're getting new formations, new units, and a narrative with maps and with new art. So these are, I think, really all of the stuff that we want. There's a lot of stuff in the previous books that, like the campaigns, which are interesting and compelling in their own way, but I'm not sure how much actual use they see on the table for most players. So I'm glad that more development time is going to the things that, we'll see more playtime, and that will be just more rounding out the experience for everybody. Looks like everything's going up for pre-order this Saturday. And so I know certainly that I'll be getting at least a couple of Fell Blades and the book. I think that just about rounds it out, guys. If you have any thoughts of your own, any comments, any reactions to this article, please leave them down in the comments section. And if you enjoyed the video, I know this was a kind of a down and dirty one, but if you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe, and just let me know your thoughts. I always enjoy engaging with you in the comments section.